Good evening, and thank you for joining us here on the Miracle of Prosperity on the New Thought Media Network. I'm your host, Reverend Jim Webb, author of the book The Soul of Prosperity, as well as the ebooks Prosperity from A to Z and 30 P's to Prosperity. And I'm happy to announce, author of the upcoming book, Forgive Your Way to Prosperity, which is the topic of tonight's show. As you know, we think of prosperity not just as money and stuff, but we think of prosperity in all of its dimensions. Prosperity is professional prosperity, where we have the perfect job with perfect pay, where we offer a wonderful service in a wonderful way. We think of prosperity as relationship prosperity, where our relationships are harmonious, peaceful, and uplifting. We think of prosperity as family prosperity, where our family experiences are as harmonious, uplifting, and peaceful as possible, or we are at peace with our family experiences. Of course, we think of spiritual prosperity and logistical prosperity, where our lives just work easily and effortlessly, with a minimum or without any struggle. And of course, financial prosperity, where we have enough resources, support, and more than enough to spare and to share. So, prosperity is a broad concept. And one of the things we're going to look at tonight is the link between forgiveness and prosperity. And so you might ask, what is the link between forgiveness and prosperity? Well, A Course in Miracles lessons 121 and 122 say, respectively, forgiveness is the key to happiness, and forgiveness offers everything I want. So, if forgiveness is the key to happiness and forgiveness offers everything we want, it stands to reason that forgiveness is the key to prosperity. And so, you may scratch your head about that and wonder, how can that be? Well, we're going to explore that tonight. I'm going to direct you to another lesson in A Course in Miracles as well. Lesson 134. Lesson 134 says, let me understand forgiveness as it is. And this will begin to make it make sense for you. Lesson 134 says, in essence, forgiveness is not a verb that we do. It is not like a lollipop that we hand to an errant child to scold him. It is not something that we give to another to absolve them from their sins. Lesson 134 says, in essence, forgiveness is an inner state of peace, harmony, and love that we attain. It is a state of being. It is a state of oneness with God. It is a state of peace. It is a state of love. And this is my extension. And by default, therefore, it's a state of openness to the flow of God's love that allows prosperity. Now, we can go into a lot more detail on why forgiveness is not something that you do to another person, but we'll save that for our later discussion. For now, we're going to look at ways that we can forgive our way to prosperity. And it's not just me. I have a very special guest tonight, my bestie and one of your favorite guests on the show, channel, author, healer, speaker, singer, friend, Reverend Daniel Neusom. Welcome, Daniel.
Reverend Dr. Jim Webb, thank you so much for inviting me. This is truly one of my favorite things to do with my time and energy, to come on your great podcast and share with you and your viewers. So thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for blessing me and my viewers with your presence. Now, one of the things I wanted to explore with you further is Something that I began to unwrap in the intro, that forgiveness is not a thing we do, forgiveness is a state we attain. And I wanted us to discuss a little bit more what A Course means by that. How A Course says, when you give forgiveness like you give a lollipop, you stay in the same dialogue, you stay in the same energy, you stay in the same pattern of victim and victimizer. When you forgive in that way, it's like you're saying, I'm morally superior to you, but just like an errant child, I'm going to give you this lollipop of forgiveness and let you off the hook. And in that, you are still a victim. In that, there is still judgment. And in that, most importantly, there is still an idea that someone has sinned, someone is wrong, someone is a victim, someone is less than, someone is hurt, someone is unloved. And the reason that that's a challenge in A Course in Miracles is A Course in Miracles says all of that is just a figment of your imagination. It's not true. It's not real. Only love is real, and you were made of love. And so that false persona of a victim that you attain is not true, real. Don't empower it. Instead, empower the part of you that is God. And that's why forgiveness is not this wrestling match of I'm better than you, so I forgive you and I can be morally superior, but we're still separate and we're still in this prison of victim and victimizer. What are your thoughts on that, Reverend Newsom?
I have many thoughts on that, Reverend Webb.
Okay.
You have to make a choice. What's most important to me? Do I want to be happy? Do I want to be fulfilled? Do I want to be at peace? Or do I want to be right? Or do I want vengeance? That's one thing. Secondly, we go back to what you teach us, Reverend Webb. Everything I see begins and ends with me. So, spiritual teaching tells us that we are electromagnetic energy fields of consciousness and love. And our consciousness, which includes our thoughts and our emotions, attract to us everything, including the relationships, the patterns in the relationships, everything. So actually, it's never about another person. You have created everything. So if you want to be happy, if you want to be fulfilled, you must choose forgiveness. But the real forgiveness is forgiving yourself. And, I made a note that I was exposed to the Course in Miracles first 36 years ago, and I'm still finding more and more and more richness in it. And what came to me is that if Brother Jesus, as he's been coming through my channel, is asking people, do you want to go all the way? We will go with you as far as you want to go. And if you want to go all the way, then you're going to have to use meditation as a self search. One of my church members and friends, she liked what came through in a meditation where I said, God will tell you about yourself if you really want to hear. So the first thing is in meditation, make it a self-search. Let God know, I want to know the grievances I'm holding toward myself. Meditation is not boring if it's a self-search. That's interesting to really go within and find out the grievances you are holding toward yourself, and then the grievances you're holding toward other people.
Yes.
And the Course in Miracles is always inviting us into our mystical experience with God. So Jesus in A Course says, all you need is a little willingness, and the Holy Spirit of God will do the rest. So when you talk about it as a state of being, it's a mystical experience that you have through breath and through meditation when you let it be known to the Holy Spirit, I want to forgive. I want to forgive myself and I want to forgive everyone else.
Beautiful. So let's break that down. That's a beautiful, big, juicy steak. I can smell it. I can hear the sizzle. I can taste it even before I put it in my mouth. But I want to cut it into bite sized chunks now. So let's go with the first thing you said first. And I just want to restate it so that we get it clearly. One of the keys to being in this state of forgiveness is to choose. Would you rather be right or would you rather be at peace? Would you rather be a, a victim and would you rather be in that state of righteous victimhood and outrage? Or would you rather be at peace? Would you rather feel falsely superior to someone by granting them forgiveness from your lofty perch of perfection? Or would you rather be at peace? So that's the first thing that I want to just emphasize for our viewers as ways to understand that we can make the choice for forgiveness and therefore for the prosperity that forgiveness offers. The second thing I want to emphasize is something you know very well that I say all the time. Everything I see begins and ends with me. That we are electromagnetic attractors to that which reflects our thoughts, our feelings, our consciousness. So we can assume a state of oneness with God, which is forgiveness, and God is love. And when we attract the light and love that is God, and when we embody that, then we attract loving circumstances that take all the forms of prosperity that we discussed. Is that a summary of the first couple of points that you made, Reverend Daniel Newsom?
It is, and I want to add something because this Course in Miracles is not for everyone. It's really tough because if you're going to really go all the way with this, then if
Mm-hmm.
someone has hurt you in your life,
Mm-hmm.
they are simply acting out your own will to hurt yourself.
In other words, you're on the level of the souls. You said, let's go play this drama so that I can heal. And you
Yeah.
handed them a script. And you said, say these lines. They may hurt my ego when we're down there on the earth, but that's the trigger that I need to grow and
Yes,
to heal. And that's why I came to the earth.
yes, yes. So that's why I understand now when Brother Jesus says, all is forgiven and there is nothing to forgive. You don't need to forgive the other person because they're just acting out a part of you that you came to the earth to have transformed. That's so amazing.
And you know what else that is? That is so liberating. You know why? Because all that energy we have spent blaming someone else, blaming our parents, blaming our first grade teacher, blaming our first boyfriend, blaming our second boyfriend, blaming our 109th boyfriend, and
You
all
need
of our coworkers and all of our bosses and our neighbors. You know how much energy we have wasted on that?
mm-hmm. And you know something else? I'm sorry, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Tell me something else.
Many people want to stay there. They don't want to forgive and assume complete self responsibility. And Brother Jesus came through my channel in one session with a lady,
Mm-hmm.
and they were having this dialogue, and he said, "You don't have to leave that place of
Mm-hmm.
victimhood and ego and blame. You can stay there for as long as you desire. When you are ready, we are ready to help you. But you may need to have
Amen.
more experience in that place."
Amen. Some people are addicted to their victimhood. Number one, they believe it to be their identity, and who would they be if they were stripped of their identity? Their ego fears that they would be destroyed if their veneer of victimhood were stripped from them. Other people find unconsciously that victimhood is attractive because it attracts attention that they mistake for love.
Yes.
I've observed some people who literally use their wounds as sirens to get the love from outside of them and the attention from outside of them that they desire. For they believe that that love from outside of them that they desire is the salve for the wound and will heal them because they have not yet fully embraced that the love of God within you, the light of God within you, and the grace of God that pours through you is the true source of your healing, not the temporary source of your healing from outside of you that you cannot control, except by being more and more and more of a victim.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me actually of years and years ago. I did a reading for someone, and the person asked me, why can't I get well? And I saw a white cat, that they were petting a white cat, and the white cat symbolized their illness. And as a child, they believed that the only way that they could get their parents' love and attention, and as a child, our parents' love and attention, we think, is the source of life. The only way they could get it was by being sick. So to this day, they had believed that in order to get what they needed to survive, they had to be sick in order to get it, which is the embodiment of the Course in Miracles statement, the ego is insane. I'm going to get sick and kill myself in order to have life because I believe that this is the source of life. Well, on some level, people who have a difficulty releasing the role of victim may have a smidgen of that energy that goes unnoticed, unheeded. And so that's why your third point is so powerful. And I'm so glad you brought that up because our brother Ed Miller is going to be on next week to talk about inciting your way to prosperity, using personal reflection, personal awareness, and self awareness and self insight to get to prosperity. But you mentioned this and you tee it up as a teaser because knowing yourself, knowing your consciousness, knowing the unconscious inner knows can help you turn those inner no's to yes. So that all of you says yes to prosperity. Can you say a little bit more about that, Reverend Daniel Newsom?
Absolutely. So let's get back to being an electromagnetic energy field.
Okay.
What's natural for us, who we really are, is
Mm-hmm.
love. So when we're holding anger and grievances, there is a response, and that response is guilt. I
Mm.
am not being who God created me to be, and I feel guilty, and therefore I do not deserve joy,
Mm.
abundance, prosperity, fulfillment. So forgiveness undoes all of that. When you let forgiveness in, and here it's what Brother Jesus calls radical self forgiveness,
Yes.
you begin to feel worthy and deserving of heaven, your prosperity, letting in all of the good God is sending to you in every moment of now.
Yes. And let's break that down just a little bit more. I am so loving this discussion, and I am so thankful to have you on to have this discussion. Let's break down that guilt because quite often I see guilt as, it has within it a gap. Guilt is caused by the gap between what our ego says should be, who our ego says we should be, what our ego says the circumstances should be. and our current experience. That gap creates guilt.
Mm.
That guilt says, I do not, as you mentioned, that guilt then says, I do not deserve my good. I will reject my good. I will run from my good. I will sabotage my good because I do not deserve it. And forgiveness lifts that guilt. Forgiveness is an inner state of I am enough, I am holy, I am at peace, I am at one with God. God loves me completely and unconditionally. God has unconditional loving acceptance for myself, and I agree with God, and I accept myself and my current circumstances just as they are. Doesn't mean your current circumstances are going to remain. Your current circumstances are here to teach you something. And when your current circumstances open your awareness to whatever it is that they are opening your awareness to, you then give your current circumstances an opportunity to release so
Amen.
that different, better, more supportive, more uplifting, and more prosperous circumstances can take their place. So, this gap between who our egos say we should be, what circumstances our egos say should exist, and where things are, this gap is an illusion. Our ego just dreamed up some savage fantasy of what they wanted because they believe that if they have this, they will be safe, at peace, loved, and lovable. But we're already safe. We're already at peace. We're already loved and lovable. So this gap is an illusion, and the guilt in the gap is an illusion. So just as we are love. For that is the light within us that God created us to be. And all the stories that told us otherwise are just the ego's stories that create the gap, that create the guilt. So our task is to be in the state of forgiveness and unconditional loving acceptance and peace and alignment with God, just as we are. It doesn't take some future circumstance. It doesn't take some idealized circumstance. It only takes our willingness to shift our consciousness. Is that what you mean by there is nothing to forgive, Reverend Daniel Newsom?
It is. It absolutely is. And I feel that Brother Jesus is inviting us to view our lifetimes on earth from the perspective of God.
Yes.
Oh, you just needed to experience yourself in this particular way. You took on this
Yes.
body, this personality. Oh, and you gave yourself the experience of trying to hurt someone or them trying to hurt you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just loving you and I'm wanting you to be happy. And no harm has really been done because it's all just a drama. It's all
Mm-hmm.
just play. You are
Mm-hmm.
eternal. You are a spirit. You can't really hurt anyone.
Yes. And when we go into meditation regularly, and when we go into that altered state of consciousness, which is our true state of being, where we feel the love of God, where we feel the alignment of God, where we feel the flow of energy of God, where we feel ourselves to be on that elevated plane, where we feel our energy to transcend our bodies. When we go into that state, we realize and recognize who we really are as eternal beings. And that lesson in the Course in Miracles that created the mantra, I am not a body, I am free. I am still as God created me. Love, light, and peace abide in me. My sinlessness is guaranteed by God. When we go into that state, we realize this is who we really are. And that victim in the play is just an actor in a temporary role in order to teach, learn, and heal.
Yes.
And so I think our guests may have some questions. And so I'm going to give our guests an opportunity to put their questions in the comments. And we're going to go on break while our guests do that. So we're going to go on break and we'll be right back here on the Miracle of Prosperity.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
And we're back here on the New Thought Media Network with the Miracle of Prosperity. And Rosabella had a question. How can the state of forgiveness elevate our vibrational energy, and how is that beneficial to our spirit? Would you like to handle that, Reverend Neusom?
Yes. So think about the way you feel when you are angry. You're tight, your heart is closed. Ugh. And then think about the way you feel. For some reason, I'm getting the image of a mother with her baby, and the baby is being really good, and she just feels all this love for the baby. Think about that state. You're open, and your heart is open, and you actually know as you meditate, you begin to feel different energies and frequency. So when you open to self-forgiveness and self-love and forgiving your sibling, whoever you need to forgive, you actually feel more open and expanded and happier. You feel like you want to, I've had times when I felt like I wanted to give every single person on the street a hug. I don't live in that state, but I've tasted that state of being. And the other thing that I wanted to say, which is not a direct answer to Isabella's, okay, thank you, very spirit just came right in. So the whole purpose of the reincarnational cycles of life is to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, the Course in Miracles tells us. So when that block is removed, of course it's going to elevate your frequency. Of course it's going to raise your your spirit. And that's the whole reason why you're here. But I just want to say one more thing that is not directly related to Isabella's question, but it's about meditation and about breathing in through the seven major chakras of your body. A thought like, I am caused by God within me to know, feel, and believe that all is forgiven, that I am completely forgiven, and there is nothing to forgive. That's the way you start to embody the consciousness of forgiveness. So it doesn't just stay in your head as an intellectual concept, but you're breathing it into the fabric of your being through the chakras of your body in meditation.
Thank you, Reverend Newsom. What a wonderful and thorough answer. And we have another question from Shay, who goes back and forth because of some very intense family experiences. She goes back and forth. She's really healing from victim consciousness, and sometimes she has a hard time believing that she would choose the intensity of the life that she's lived. Then she looks at her personality and say, of course I would choose it this way. Why do we go back and forth between these beliefs? How can we remember?
You want me to answer that also?
You are the guest.
I thought maybe we would go back and forth. Okay.
Oh, okay. You want me to
So
do it? I'll do it.
I can do it also. Whatever you're in charge here. Whatever you want.
Well, you're the guest, and so I must defer to you
Okay,
because
I will do it. So when you go back instead of forth, when you go back, it's because your ego doesn't want you to assume self-responsibility. The ego is insane. It wants to keep you in victimhood and anger and victimhood, anger, and grievance. So, brother Jesus is saying, keep going to God. If you really want to know what's inside of you and you go to God, you will be answered. So when you go to God and you ask, tell me the truth, help me to feel the truth of what's going on and why I had the family I had in this life, you will be answered. That's my answer.
yes, and I would add something to that from a slightly different perspective, and that is the dance of enlightenment. Sometimes we think it's two steps forward and one step back. And that's why sometimes we are in that enlightened state where we are not a victim. And in the next day, we're remembering some other grievance that we had, some other hurt, and we're back in a place of pain. And the reason that I want to bring that up is because that can be very discouraging and very exhausting. And it is understandable that that would be discouraging and exhausting. But it's important to understand what's really happening here. What's really happening here is each time you have an expansion, the light of God is so intense, so powerful, and so much you that it burrows deeper into deeper layers of your consciousness because your consciousness is like an onion. And it uncovers perhaps another layer of pain, of feeling unloved by family, of feeling unseen, unheard, undervalued. And that comes up. And it feels like we've taken a step back after this major enlightenment. But we haven't taken a step back. We've taken a step deeper into our consciousness. So this is really progress. And the reason that this is so important when it feels like we're going back and forth is so our ego won't seize that feeling of going back and forth and convince us that this is worthless and we might as well stop, or convince us that no matter what we do, we're still going to be miserable. No, we can reassure ourselves that you are going deeper. And I'm here to tell you that at some point you get to the core of your consciousness where this thing just dissolves and it is no more. And it has no power to create its reflection anymore. And your state of peace and your state of joy is inviolate. And we will all get there. We will all get there. And the intensity of your backs and forths will become less and less and less until they are imperceptible. What previously might have been a major self-quake might be a passing thought that just gets healed in an instant. So we will all get there, and you will get there. And that's what I want to say in addition, Shay. Okay? Shay, okay? Okay, Shay? Yes. And so there may be some other questions that you have about this. We're going to go to break, and Jesus, we dance a lot. Thank you. We're going to go to break, and when we come back, if you have any final questions, we're going to do those, and we're going to have a couple of surprises for you. I've got a surprise announcement. So we're going to go to break, and after the break, we'll share that surprise announcement here on the New Thought Media Network. And we're back here on the New Thought Media Network. The title of our show today is Forgive Your Way to Prosperity with teacher, healer, author, singer, channel, and all-around good guy, Reverend Daniel Neusom. So we had one more question from Deanna. How do you handle a relationship in which you are a trigger to someone who has not dealt with their ability to forgive you, even though the issue has no merit? Reverend Neusom, take a breath.
Yeah, that's a challenging one, but I will give the answer. You need to call upon the divinity within you to give you, first of all, a lot of love, patience, and compassion. That's number one. And also work with anything that other person triggers within you. Work it out with God so that when you're actually in the relationship with the person, with an open heart, you can express your love for them, also to ask them if there is anything you feel I have done that's triggered pain within you. I want to hear it. And then let them speak to you and listen, and with love and whatever gentleness you can find, point out the truth. And it's actually very important to do this when they are triggered. And if you can't make progress with that, then your love for yourself has to take precedence. And you may need to remove yourself from their presence when they are triggered. And in the extreme, you may need to not have a physical relationship with them anymore. I feel Brother Jesus saying, I will guide you through the steps, day by day, step by step, if you choose. So that's the answer that I get.
Yes. And I would add, always bring God in. If this person is living with you, it's a wonderful opportunity for you to bring God into your consciousness and your household, and continually consult with God, bring that energy in. That energy is the energy that will give you peace and focus, that will cause you to feel less attacked, and it will rise you to that place where you can hear what those person's grievances are with objectivity and love. And quite often, when you are in that state of fullness, of love, and of forgiveness, because you've practiced your God aerobics by bringing God in uh, over and over and over again, by the time the person gets to vent, the healing may have occurred. By the time that person lets you know what their grievances are, they may hear themselves speak and may realize what you said, that their grievances are without merit, or they may realize that their grievances have not to do with you, you just happen to be the person in the way. And so one of the keys is to bring God in early, bring God in often, bring God in constantly, and bring God in to take you to an elevated space where you can deal with this as objectively as possible. Good. All right. So I think we have a comment by Reverend Jane Batt. It will dissolve. It will dissolve. Yes. And thank you, Reverend Newsom, for your message last month. Be new. Reverend Daniel Newsom has lots of wonderful messages, so we're so glad to have him. And Reverend Newsom, I know how busy you are, and so I am so glad you honored us with your time this evening. I know how busy you are. What kind of stuff are you working on these days?
Oh, Reverend Webb, I know you're referencing our phone conversation. Yes, as you know, being a minister and being a pastor is a lot of work.
Yes.
So I am teaching classes on Wednesday and Thursday nights, but don't come Thursday because that's Reverend Webb's class. But if you are free on a Wednesday night, join me for spiritual psychic development and the path of self-transformation. Every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. You can go to my website, you can send me an email, and I will tell you all about it. This is through the Sacred Light Fellowship, the church that I pastor. And if you have questions for Spirit, first go to Reverend Webb. I know he has a Spirit Speaks and will tell you about everything and anything. But if you happen to be free on a Friday at 6 p.m., you can come to my message service and you can ask your questions. The donation is $7 a question. The service begins with a transformational meditation, and then I channel answers to your specific questions. And then on Sundays, we have our service of celebration at 3:30 p.m. So after you go to the Tacoma Metaphysical Chapel, if you still want more spirit, come to the Sacred Light Fellowship at 3:30. So those are, and then I have private sessions interspersed through all of that. So that's what I'm up to. What are you up to, Reverend Webb?
Reverend Webb, first of all, I'm up to endorsing all of your activities, because that Wednesday night thing, people go to it and they tell me how wonderful it is. I've been to your Friday night things, and those transformational meditations are just incredible. They are just incredible. And I, of course, have been to your Sunday services. I've spoken there once or twice, and they're equally wonderful as well. So the first thing I'm up to is endorsing all that you do. And then I'm up to some new summer classes, and I've got an announcement about those. My summer class is a summer prosperity intensive. It's a manifestation checkup, because we did vision boards at the beginning of the year, and sometimes those vision boards gather dust by the middle of the year. But we want to check up and see where we are in our manifestation process. And Spirit has been constantly downloading more information to me on manifestation, and Spirit has been constantly downloading more information to me on additional ways to manifest. So more manifestation information and more manifestation methods or techniques. So I'm doing an 8-week class on Mondays and an 8-week class on Thursdays. On Mondays, it's 8 weeks of Spirit Speaks More on manifestation. And on Thursdays, it's 8 weeks of more manifestation methods. Now, in the Monday class, you get to hear what Spirit has to say on new information on manifestation and ask your questions on your manifestation process. And then on Thursday nights, we will work with specific methods that you can use and customize for you to help manifest your good. It's 8 weeks. The 8 weeks also includes a free 20-minute personal consultation with me. It's 2 classes for the price of 1. And as of until January 2nd, there's a $75 early registration discount. Now, what has happened recently, because this class is already over 50, almost 60% sold out. And we've got 3 more weeks of registration. I've changed the dates, note that, so it's moved back a week. And I'm making another decision around that tonight, after midnight. But one of the things that I want everybody to understand is that recently, because my classes have been selling out, people have been disappointed because they haven't been able to register for my class because they didn't have the funds in order to take advantage of the early bird discount, or they didn't have the funds to register, and then the class sold out. So what I'm doing now is, if you have an interest in taking the class, just do a deposit and reserve your space. That way you won't get shut out in case you don't have the funds by the deadline, okay? So I want to make sure that if you want to take this class, you have every opportunity to do that. So you can make a reservation with a small deposit so you won't get shut out of the class when it sells out. And that's what I want to share with you. So I want to thank you all for joining us tonight on the Miracle of Prosperity. Remember that forgiveness is a hidden key to prosperity, and that you can forgive your way to prosperity. Look for my book of the same title on September 1st. That's a very auspicious day, because that's the day I tend to release my books. So look for that on September 1st. I'll be working to finish it all over the summer and get it ready for you. In the meantime, remember, you can forgive your way to prosperity here on the Miracle of Prosperity. Thank you and good night, everyone.